Welcome to Dr. Ratan Talks. Today's topic is multicultural, because the culture is very important. The culture differs from country to country, place to place, even the customs, everything changes. And because of the global situation, it is a very important topic. Now we have an international expert, and we also have association with our institution. And I have not seen such person who is, even though he has gone globally, is very honest, down to the head. And students also used to like. And even now also, I have not seen such honest person in the career. And really, again, after 10 years, actually, we are again together. And he's having multicultural. There is a reason we have taken, because internationally he has traveled and he worked in public sector, private sector, education sector, and whatnot, all the sectors. And we are talking about sector. Culture means there is a corporate culture, there is a bureaucratic culture, there is a public sector culture, and agriculture. And sometimes there is no culture. So the culture is matters. So we are going to discuss today what is the importance of culture in a different context, whether we are doing business or going for studies. Without knowing the culture of others, we'll get into problems. So with the practical experience, he is the person actually having some 3 decades of experience, and from the day one onwards, he has seen the culture, and there are a number of culture shocks he also faced, and he's going to share with his own real life experiences and different contexts. Now we request Krishna Ranga, very senior person, and I feel proud that to actually invite him and to give us such a invitation. On the invitation he has come, and people really will be thrilled to listen his lecture. Thank you, sir. So please introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much, Professor Ratan Reddy Garu. What a nice, glowing introduction you have given about me. I would feel really happy about it. And then I'm sure, I only hope group does not get bored up about me. After having heard about it, and then first let me express my sincere thanks to you for remembering and then asking me to come over here to speak with this August group. I'm really happy about it. In this part of the country and all over the world, because of the pandemic, we are having a difficulty in the sense that we are homebound. We are not going outside. And regular lectures, the way we do it physically, is not there anymore for the last couple of years. We are just staying homebound, going more virtually online all the time. And so this is another, but this is coming from you. Therefore, I'm really feeling happy about it. And having worked with you in the Global Business School, and then shared my experience and exposure in a very pleasant way, and I have had a good, pleasant interaction with the students at the time. I still remember. But after that, I have gone seriously into the consulting work. Lots of projects I have done. And then the last 2 years, I'm not doing any work because, I'm unable to travel. For the simple reason, it is now, right now, in Hyderabad, it is going bad to us. And not just in Hyderabad, all over India, it is the same. Well, anyhow, coming back to our subject, that is culture. But before proceeding with the subject, let me just briefly tell you about myself. My name is Krishna Ranga Rao, Gujjari. I'm from Hyderabad. My education, my background, my initial employment, all of it from Hyderabad, Usmania University. I began as a lecturer in archaeology. Basically, to start with, that is way back in 1978. Yeah, and then from there, I went into tourism, Government of India. After getting selected through the Staff Selection Commission, I became a lecturer in tourism. After that, I've completed my PhD in tourism, and I've had an opportunity to go to Greece under cultural exchange for PhD. And after completing my tenure at Athens University, I'm back into my service again in India. And then I became a professor in Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management at Gwalior, which is again a Government of India organization. Had a great pleasure in different places in India, serving over there. And after doing that, for some reason, I was unable to travel from one place to another so quickly as expecting me to. Therefore, I resigned and went over to UK, worked in Westminster College in London. Then afterward, time standards verifier for government of UK. It was a wonderful experience. Basically, for the at least 3 years I have worked over there, and for personal reasons, I returned back to India. And from since then, I'm working as a freelance tourism consultant. Well, this being my introduction in a very brief manner, let me share now some of the experiences and thoughts that I have about culture and cultural heritage and so on and so forth. When we're talking about culture, lots of things come to our mind. When you go on internet, you will see so many interpretations, so many meanings. Now, thing that we know that a particular segment of the society, based upon its language or based upon its geographical area or based upon its background, or maybe their customs, traditions, religion, they may be considered as one particular culture. So, but I'm speaking about it. But before I speak a little more about culture and in the context of management, let me go back a little backwards, say 1950s and 1960s, for the simple reason because there is a connection. You see, what has happened was when we talk about movement of the people, now we are talking about culture, cultural, cross-cultural issues, cross-cultural management, all these things. Why are for the simple reason there's a need now to understand, because there is no question of saying, look, I know Hyderabad and so I speak in Hyderabad and I speak to fellow Hyderabad. It's not like that. Now, because of the technology or and then afterwards globalization, both these events have led to such a development. Now it's becoming a must for all of us to understand and get along with different types of people, whatever is their background is, education or geographical or cultural, social, or whatever it is. So, you know, if you want to be successful, now, particularly, we don't know how long it will be like this. We are definitely working from home. And while working from home, it is work for online. The only way perhaps we see is through video, and then afterwards through their speaking. So therefore, there are many aspects, you know. We start with, for example, time zone. Then the second is accent. Third is their behavior pattern. The fourth is general environment in that area. All this we need to understand. Now, to understand these things, you know, we need to go backwards a little. For example, in 1960s and 1950s, if you have seen, you know, initially the plane was discovered around 1920s. Good, that's good. So it made the world accessible. But the thing is, they did not travel commercially from 1920s onwards. They traveled only after 1940, the invention of jet engine. Then after, and that too, they have discovered it only for one reason. They discovered it because they wanted to have the planes going really high and throwing the bombs at the enemy. It was mostly for the military purpose. Later on, it has its application has come for the civilian use, right? Then after that, you started having jets, and then with these jets and the bigger ones and the powerful ones, then you started having, suddenly you're able to travel from one place to another. Now, if that is the air travel, now you can ask me how it is relevant to our discussion here. For the simple reason, people began traveling from one place to another. Before that, it wasn't possible. You know, you have to go by ship, and ship means it may take months together, and only you are capable of, how do we say, meeting the people at the shipyard there and the port area, and you're familiar with in and around the port area. But later on, you know, by 90 and all that, you have a train coming for the land travel, right? Ship, land travel. Now, these two things together, along with now super fastened our growth and development. Then immediately after 1950, we began having commercial flights. And we're having commercial flights. If you think that is the peak of the technology, you're mistaken, because the technology has just begun. The technology has just begun. Remember, In 1960s and 1970s, when myself and others of my age, we were very, very fond of entertainment at the time, but our only entertainment was the radio. And in radio, we were getting few stations, and those stations that we would see, tape recorder, record player, they were a luxury. Later on, when it comes into the production stage in 1970s, then you started having 2-in-1, 3-in-1, and in India, in Hyderabad, we used to think it is a great thing to have connections travel abroad so that they can get us 2-in-1, 3-in-1, so that we can listen to the music and we can listen to the cassettes and so on and so forth. Then afterwards, video comes in. Then afterwards, what you have is, if we are, and at that time, I remember when we are typing, we learned how to type. It was a manual typewriter. Even to erase something, we have to remove the paper, the fluid, and then again put it back into the typewriter. This is the kind of situation we used to have at the time. Then afterwards, electronic typewriter came. After the electronic typewriter, then what you would see is, it is not just this thing. And phone, if I have to phone, for example, in 1982, 1984, I was in Europe, Athens, and there onwards, I wanted to speak to my parents. I used to book a phone call in the morning hours. And when I was booking a phone call in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, I will call. And then I speak to my parents. And in the beginning, they'll say, look, you have exceeded your time limit of 15 minutes. So it is going to cost you more. After will come and tell me. Then afterward, I have to adjust my modulation. And I have to either speed it up, or I can say, look, let me speak to for 15 minutes. I'm willing to pay for it. Then they'll continue. You forget about international calls. I'm talking about within India, from one state to another, I have to call. Situation was like that. Imagine yourself, if you are a young person, if you are below 40, imagine yourself in such a situation, how you would have probably conducted yourself. It would have been a very funny situation. You would not be able to follow what I'm trying to say. The thing is, then after that, what happened was, suddenly, for example, I was teaching tourism. And we used to have ticketing, international ticketing it is. Ticketing means, it refers to giving tickets from one person from Hyderabad to maybe London, maybe New York. Yeah, this international ticketing, we used to have big, heavy books to read and to get to the fare that is suitable for this kind of flight, non-stop flight, or a flight with one stop, or flight with 2 stops, etc., etc. Now, if this was there, then what happened was, my students were learning international ticketing, and suddenly in 1997, I see all of the students who were going for ticketing, or who are going for etc., they began coming for cargo, because ticketing has changed. Ticketing has changed because suddenly there is a computer in the picture, and the computerization of ticketing has brought in such a revolution. It is no more like you have an office on the road, and then you look at the book, and after 1 hour you tell the fare. It is not like that. Now you just online, that person is asking, look, how much it would cost me, or that person himself can book a ticket if he is computer savvy. In this way, there was a tremendous change. In ticketing, this is just one example I am familiar with, I'm giving you. But afterwards, the kind of thing, if you think the computer has come and the internet has come, and so things have opened up, and now suddenly the world began becoming smaller and smaller, for the simple reason, cell phone has come. Then afterwards, on TV, we would see cable connections. Initially, we used to have only government channels, one or two channels. If we want to see a movie, we used to go to the house in neighborhood and have a look on Sundays. Only on Sundays movies used to see. Then afterwards, cable connection. Then you see 24 hours entertainment, and news immediately, within no time it is coming. And afterwards, I don't need to tell you how things have changed to such an extent now on smartphones. Yeah, to see all these things. The reason for my mentioning is, now what's happening is, it has become a possibility. Before, we used to think remotely, maybe it is possible, but now it is actually happening. How it is? See, even this pandemic also paved the way for globalization. Globalization in the sense, now you are sitting at home and you are working from home. Both of my sons, they are working, and suddenly for the last 2 years, they began working from home. It is the computer. The same work which they used to do in the office, they are doing it from home. And so the connections have changed and the work pattern has changed. And so now you're getting in touch. Now, for example, Sir Ratan Reddy is in USA. I am in Hyderabad. And he spoke to me just a day before, suddenly. And then we got in touch after so many years. We were really happy. And then he tells me, look, you speak to our guys about culture and cross-cultural issues and so on. So I agreed. All this is in 24 hours. And today evening, here I am trying to speak to you about cross-cultural issues. Now, the thing is, cross-cultural issues or cross-cultural management definitely comes because we know that all the humans are not the same. There is no question of stereotyping. There is no question of generalizing. You have lots and lots of difference between people, maybe geographically, maybe socially, and maybe culturally. Yeah, and also the business pattern, it varies. Regulations, they vary, they differ. So what happened? What we were thinking earlier in India, for example, we used to think greatly about equipment made abroad. So to own that particular kind of equipment, we used to think, wow, it is really great to have. Only people who were traveling abroad were able to get those things in India and give it to the relatives and so on and so forth. Otherwise, you were not able to get it. But now it's not like that. Those things are being manufactured right here. And most importantly, those companies have set up offices and production units in India and in China. Now, the thing is, before 2000, what is the picture that you have had about India and China is totally different now. And if China has opened up so many production units, it's only thanks to the technology. People are always hardworking, definitely in India and in China and in these parts of Asia, that people are quite hardworking, definitely. But their knowledge and their dedication, determination could be known to the people of the world only because of the technology. The technology has made it. The thing is, internet, computer, yeah, they were discovered abroad in the West. But the software, the people who have excelled in that, they're mostly from India. It suited the temperament. It suited their work culture. Let me say this. And so therefore, what has happened was, and immediately they caught on their social life and their way of conducting themselves. It is quite easily they have caught it on, and then afterwards, all over India now you have IBM, you have Microsoft, you have Amazon, you have Cognizant, all the international companies. What you are having abroad, you are having it right here. And most importantly, just one small example I'll give you. 2 years back when the pandemic came, we were just thinking, how do we go for shopping? What do we do? Because if we go outside, we may get that. And then, so when we were thinking, suddenly it started, they'll start bringing it to your house. And all you have to do is just pay a little bit more extra. And then we see online what are the pieces of equipment that is available, and we order for it. We can see, in fact, the choice is there. Different types of products with their price range, with their discounts, with their whatnot. All these things are available. Now you see, suddenly the barriers that we call it as cultural or linguistic or geographical, all of them, where they have gone. Suddenly you are able to get items in Korea, China, USA, Australia, etc., etc. But even then, it's very important for us to understand that cultural issues have to be understood, dealt with, and managed to attain excellence company workouts. It is not like supposing I am from India. Now the thing is, when I go and then talk to them, it is not that I have a difficulty in understanding Australian accent or British accent or a Scottish accent or an American accent. Again, American means, again, I'm not generalizing. I know there is a difference in the north and south and west American accents again. So these accents, most importantly, my accent has to be understood by them. In fact, when I went to London first time, when I was teaching, the problem was that they were all happy with my knowledge, but they were not able to follow me if I am speaking a little bit fast, because my accent was different. Definitely, it is different, and it was a little bit difficult for them to follow. It took some time for them. And once I began understanding and I began adding words that are familiar to them, that's because of my observation at that place. And then I started doing it. So this way, what happened was this, I have understood, for example, I observed when I went to Greece, I started talking, then they please be slow, because first of all, they do not understand English. And when they understand English only very simple English. So I have to be able to do that. And most importantly, their body language is different. You know, it is not like what we say. For example, you'll simply say, like, which means he doesn't know. Or you'll simply raise his eyebrows, which refers to, you know, most of the Mediterranean people, they use their shoulders and their hands in a way, not just the Greeks, French, Spanish, Portuguese, all these guys I have observed, they use, they express through their hands. And when they talk, so it is obvious we have to understand. And I was working in a resort over there besides my PhD. And so I've had a problem initially. I was not able to follow their orders. I was not able to follow their requirements. It took some time. But after 3 or 4 months, I observed, because of my understanding of their behavior pattern and because of them becoming familiar with me, you know, things went up quite easily. I rose up in my position and in my importance, and as well as in my popularity also. People began speaking to me the moment they see me. When the British see me, they speak in clear and slow English. Yeah. Likewise, the Americans. Yeah. And they would express minimum with their hands. They try to make me understand what they want. So this way, you know, if I'm talking, all this I'm talking about in 1980s, right? But now you have again a totally online. If you go, there's a library open. Before, if we want to refer to some book and information about this country or that country, we have to go to the library. And in fact, we used to sit down in the university library for hours together, reading that encyclopedia or this book and that book, etc. But now it's not like that. It is on your fingertips. Information is available everywhere. You have to be able to understand what kind of information is suitable for you and how you would make it, or how you would apply that information or knowledge. But everything is available. But because it is available, if you think that you don't require teaching or you don't require attending to a school or university, college, then again, I think it is not a correct interpretation, because you need guidance, you need mentor, and likewise, you need in companies. For example, now what's happening is, working in government, even in India, earlier, working in a government was considered as a privilege. We used to think we are working for government, so we are great guys. But now what I see is people working in there's multinational corporations or internet global corporations or global organizations that are located now in India. So if they're working for that, wow, it's different. And they have what sort of facilities and what sort of teamwork and what sort of and all this is now nobody has or nobody has any curiosity about finding out, look, where this guy is from and how does this guy. And before, we used to have so much time to joke about other cultures and other people, their habits and etc. Now it is not like that. It is, you know, a bunch of 10 people will be there, maybe from 5 to 6 nations, and all of them getting together discussing about the common issue, that is how to increase the productivity in their organization, how to go about making it more benefit, how to meet the vision of the chairman, how to cope up with their guidelines, you know, etc. Very easily they would discuss, and they very easily, of course, it may sound a little bit more informal if we see that way, because before we used to mix up quite a lot with the people, very informally, and then we used to get along, and we used to get things done. But now it is what I observe is the people, they go about talking very strictly official. Yeah, only during lunch probably, or during evening hours after the office is over, they would meet and they would talk informally. But otherwise, it is very formal discussions that take place. And very different work culture. What I am observing is, having gone for consultancy trips nowadays I don't go to classes, and what I observe is the students also. You see, earlier I used to think PowerPoint presentation is good. Okay, so make a PowerPoint presentation and etc. etc. But now it's different totally altogether. It is, how do we say, teachers' talking time needs to get reduced. Here, they want to be a part of the discussion. They don't want one-sided lecturing. No, that I have observed now, even among the students in Indian universities and Indian institutions. Like only 10-15 minutes, I explain about the concepts and I explain about the objectives of the session that I have come for. Then afterwards, I open the session. They talk, then slowly I get wrong. And then maybe I'll deal with a case study. Then I deal with several other examples. Then afterwards, I'll give them some assignments or work to do to understand, like whether they have followed that particular topic or not. I mean, this is how it goes about. So, days of when we were lecturing for hours together, once I ran the students listening very quietly. Not that they were not good, they were good, but the work culture, let us say, their learning culture was totally different. It was more of teacher oriented, but now it is learner oriented. Like the what do you say in the teaching language, they call it as learner oriented. In fact, you'll be surprised to know, in India, whether it is training or whether it is teaching, in India you have no lack of students wanting to become doctors, engineers, and chartered accountants, and so on and so forth. Literally every second person wants to become a professional, top training. So engineering, medicine, chartered accountancy, IT, whatever they want to learn, they're willing to go to coaching camps. They're willing to go to any levels to be able to learn, become perfect. But unfortunately, what has happened was, here we have teaching community that is totally outdated, because
Please support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to Dr. Ratan Talks channel.